Thank you so much for being here. We'll go ahead and start with just an intro of who you are, what you do. I always like to say you can introduce yourself in the way that you'd like to.
Wonderful. Thank you, Yvonne. So my name is Alina. Thank you all so much for joining us today. My pronouns are she, her, they, ella. I am a person that's been working in higher education for the last about 6 years, but today I'm coming you all in the capacity of someone that has been doing work within the wellness world. A little bit about my wellness journey. I went into higher education, learning about psychology, Chicana studies. That's what my undergraduate degrees are in. I earned those degrees at UC Davis. And that very much inspired the work that I did after in higher education, working with marginalized communities. And today, my work working in higher education, but through counseling. So I'm doing career counseling, supporting students in reaching their occupational goals. And today in particular, we are going to talk about wellness and my wellness journey, as well as my work as an entrepreneur within the wellness world. And I guess some more that is important to my identity is going to be the fact that I am a first generation college student, first generation in the United States. My roots are in Michoacan, Mexico. And I think that as a person that grew up with a lot of challenges, wellness has been such a commitment to me, like it's been something that I've been seeking, and very much like a way of survival even. I think, like I mentioned in my bio, that as a person that went through a lot of trauma growing up, and in college, learning about all of those aces, meaning like all those traumatic experiences. And it's a study done by Kaiser, learning that really, like, that wasn't normal. All the trauma that I went through wasn't normal, and that's trauma in many different ways. And I think that's very much inspired this conversation today, and a little bit of hopefully something that will spark a conversation with you all amongst your community members, and within mujeres like us.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was an amazing introduction, and you do so much, and it's so amazing to see you and watch you do everything that you do. And in particular, like you said, today we're focusing on people's personal journeys of wellness and mindfulness and all of that. And to kick us off, I'd love for you to talk to us a little bit about Latina Wellness.
Yes. So Latina Wellness is very much a new project that I'm working through, and that's going to be something centered on seeking like mental health wellness, physical wellness. But just a big component of this is going to be the fact that all the dimensions of us, whether cultural, whether occupational, whether um, emotional, physical, are all interrelated, and they all play a toll on our body, our mental health, and everything. And there's essentially eight components of the wellness wheel. There's a theory that we can talk about later, but I think that through Latina Wellness, I'm really trying to to the best of my capacity, because I'm also a graduate student, a full-time employee, to share with my community what it means to seek wellness, and to be intentional about that wellness, and to be proactive. That's one of the most important things, because wellness isn't just going to come to us, like we have to be proactive about seeking that wellness, and just working towards having a better and brighter future. And I think that starts with us.
And you, in Latina Wellness, you have promoted or you've talked about yoni steaming. And so I
Mm-hmm.
wanted you, again, once again, from your perspective, what is that? Because before you, I had no idea what that was, no idea what people used it for or anything like that. So what is that, and how has that experience helped you specifically in your wellness and healing journey?
So essentially, yoni steaming is sitting over a pot of steaming herbs, and that's going to allow the steam and the oils, from the herbs to penetrate in the tissues of the labia and the vagina. And that really encourages natural cleansing and a detox of that area. And a lot of people wonder, like, well, where is this coming from? They wonder, like, how this came to be, and it's been popularized a lot lately. But really, vaginal steaming is part of the history and practices of many cultures, including about, I think it's South Korea, China, Indonesia, Cambodia, Turkey, Latvia, Italy, Germany, and many, many more. And it's all according to Steaming Chick, which is kind of like the hub of vaginal steaming. They do certifications for folks that want to be practitioners in yoni steaming. I'm not there quite yet. Maybe down the line in the future when I have some time that's free in order to be able to facilitate these steaming sessions. But really, it's something that's existed for so long. And the common use of vaginal steaming across cultures is for postpartum care and recovery. Recovery can be anything, right? And something that I've talked to Yvonne about is that, it's very much a ritual and an opportunity to connect with your vagina, which we're taught so frequently growing up that it's something dirty that we should ignore. But, the thing oftentimes be a way for us um, you know, to cleanse ourselves from like previous partners. Anyways, so it's very much a ritual, and I very much recommend my friends, especially those who have come out of romantic or sexual relationships, as a way to cleanse and just like rid yourself of like energies of just trauma. It's also interrelated, and really it feels great. It's a method of meditation for me and for so many other people in self-care. And more than anything, I think it's important to know about the different types of benefits to vaginal steaming. And I think that's where everybody's just like, whoa, I can't believe that it does so much. But I think like it's very much depending on your experience, right? It's going to be helping with maintaining your general vaginal health, um, helps with reducing painful periods. And I know that has been true for me personally. I've been steaming for about, I want to say at this point, like 3-ish years. Helped with reducing painful periods, the frequency, how long they are. My periods used to be 4 to 5 days. Now they're down to about 3, and the third day is very light. Um, Helps with recurring infections, dryness, super important. It makes sex so much more pleasurable when you're a lot more lubricated, right? Helps with your missing periods. I know I had a friend that had her missing periods, and it's helping with making those more regular. Long cycles, endometriosis, cysts or fibroids. My family is very prone to that. Fortunately, up to this point, I haven't had any scares, but it's also something to think about in the long term. Like, how are we like caring for ourselves now in order to prevent future challenges? And finally, it supports like with fertility. So if you want to get pregnant, start steaming.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
um, I do have a few cautions that I want to make sure to share. Um, there are some cautions, and I want to make sure that folks are in connection with a practitioner if they're like looking to do this and they're very afraid or hesitant. If they're using IUDs, you should be careful. But definitely consult with a practitioner. But yeah, thank you for letting me share that.
No, yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so important what you said is this sort of rediscovery, sometimes discovery of what works for you. You've been doing this for 3 years and there's still so much that you're learning. And so I think the idea of, for example, yoni steaming, that's one part of your entire wellness journey and something that that may not work for somebody else, but totally works for you. And I think that's what's so amazing about being able to explore what your body needs, what your mind needs, what the soul needs, and being able to share that with people. Because
Mm,
yoni steaming, for example, or anything else that you share through Latina Wellness can be something that maybe I haven't discovered yet in my wellness journey, and then ends up being the thing that I needed the most. And with that, you kind of talked about this. We definitely don't talk about vagina health enough. And you're right, we see it as this like taboo thing, even with our families, and talking about sex, talking about wellness, even mental health, right? Is
mm,
oftentimes I know
mm,
in our communities very just not talked about. So since focusing on your healing in this way, how have conversations with your families, with your loved ones, with your friends, how have those conversations evolved, if at all?
That's a great question, Yvonne. And I'm glad you're asking that because it all starts with conversation, right? It all starts with talking about it, which is why I'm so excited about Chats with Yvonne. Because the whole reason I began steaming was conversation with another, a good friend of mine that I worked with. And sometimes we end up having stronger relationships, or more confianza, with people that are outside our household. And that's been the case for me.
That's so true.
I don't necessarily feel comfortable, maybe because of the way I was raised to have this conversation with my family, maybe with my brother, which is kind of strange, right? Like, oh, she could talk about vaginas with her brother. But this is a person that I grew up with that I'm very close with, and he has to know about vaginas because he's a man and he's with a partner. Anyways, point of this is that it's important to have conversations. And while it's not with my family, it is something that I feel very open to discussing with my friends, with close friends. I think it's very important. It just allows us to be open, to exchange strategies, to empower, to explore different things that we use to find our own wellness, especially when it comes to the vagina.
Yeah, no, and I love that you say that too, because it is sometimes often easier to have conversations with someone, or communities that are a little bit more far removed from your everyday than your family is, right? And because we've lived with our families our entire lives, we kind of have grown with the ideals that follow our families. And so I understand that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people will be able to connect with that. So thanks for sharing that perspective, though. And I'm also glad to hear that at the same time, there are conversations that you're starting to kind of have with people and have had continuously with folks. And I think that's even part of the wellness journey, is being able to talk about these kinds of things and knowing that you don't really ever stop getting uncomfortable, because it's years of things of being like, no, you shouldn't talk about that with other people, or oh, that's se queda entre aquí en la casa nada más, or
Mm-hmm.
outside of these walls. So I think dismantling years of that mentality is hard anyway. So
Yeah,
proud of you for
that
having
Catholic guilt.
conversation. Yeah. Cool. And then lastly, I have maybe two more questions that we'll go through, but how and why did you become empowered to pursue this kinds of healing specifically?
I think that learning about steaming and learning about the benefits from it really got me thinking, well, can this be true? And I think something that's true for me is that I'm a very anxious person, and anxiety is very closely related to depression, right? And that does bring a lot of physiological symptoms, including vaginal dryness, right? Um, I guess like I guess I would say that that was definitely a motivation. Also because as you become older, you do lose some lubrication. And I would say that aside from the other health concerns that I have, like the cysts that run in my family, the anxiety that it's true to my experience, I wanted to try it out just to see like if this would help me. And I think that's so important in our wellness journey, is just trying different things that we think that might help. This may not be right for you, but I think what's equally important is that willingness, that curiosity, and the openness to say, well, you know what, this may be helpful for me, and if it's not, it's okay, because I can move on to finding the other strategies that will help me achieve some kind of balance and wellness that I'm looking for.
Yeah, I totally agree with that too. I recently had surgery, and though it was foot surgery, still part of wellness, part of my body, but there were some times where, my doctor said, okay, you can try certain exercises now, but I knew, like, my intuition and my body told me, like, no, don't try it yet, because your wound is still open. What if this happens? And so I would literally ask the questions. I'm like, I know you're the expert, but I am feeling this kind of way about it. So I'll ask questions. So I do
Mm,
think that it's important, like you're saying, is find the thing that really works for you. Yoni steaming has worked for you, and maybe it'll work for other people. Asking my doctor, or telling my doctor, hey, I don't feel comfortable with messing with my wound because it still feels open, like things like that is just always questioning. It's an incredibly important part of our health journeys to question and be thoughtful about what our bodies are communicating, and really learning to listen to our bodies, because I don't think we practice that often enough either. So yeah.
and you said something that was key today, which is that you are the experts on yourself and you are the expert on your body. So, you know, whatever works for you, regardless of like what, what others say, like advocate, inquire, question. I think that we're very lucky to be living in this point in time. We're feeling a lot more, I mean, as women in general, right? Like, and as people that have more confidence in their voice. So, I very much stress the importance of having agency and finding your power and finding your own wellness.
Yeah, thank you. And with that, um, what is your personal definition of wellness? It can be a sentence, it can be a word, anything that you want. If you defined wellness in as it relates to you, what does that definition sound like, look like, feel like?
Wellness is holistic. It's everything about us, right? Like, and the reason why I decided to go the path of career counseling is career counseling affects so much, our work affects so much of our life. And, it affects our mental health, it affects our physical health because our mental health affects our physical health. And I think that goes back to the idea that there's these dimensions of wellness that are all interrelated: your emotional health, environmental health, like social health, like your occupation, your spirit, your physical health. So I think like my definition of health is holistic, and just it's all interrelated, and just being mindful of how all of these things that impact our world also impact you and your body.
Awesome. Thank you. I love that. And thank you so much for coming on here and sharing a little bit of your wellness journey. I know, as you mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
you're an entrepreneur. You have the Instagram that you started is Latina Wellness. I'll obviously link it.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can follow you, and follow your
Yeah.
journey. But again, thank you so much for being here. Is there any last thoughts that you want to leave people with before you head out?
Wow, so much pressure. I would just say that, especially during this time, it's so important to be connected. I would say that we had the privilege and the opportunity when we were in college to like connect with each other and before to connect. But I would say that use the resources available to you and the people available to you to connect, because that's also part of wellness, like human connection and contact and emotional connection. So I would say that that's really important, and again, to find what works for you to have like holistic wellness in your life. Mm. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, thank you. And I know you have a whole bunch of other stuff to do. So thank you so much for being here with us. And thank you, everybody, for watching this session.